So the Facebook and Apple situation has definitely progressed a little bit, where now iOS 14 is like basically fully running. It's it's been really damaging to the entire Facebook ad community, to say the least. CPMs, cost per milli, has driven, everything else has just basically gone down. And the attribution, so attribution meaning when Facebook actually knows something happened on your website, that communication channel is just totally broken. And I've been talking to Facebook reps. I have two Facebook reps that I talk to, and they both are scrambling. Like, okay, we got to get this new conversion API set up. There's this new other tool that we want to try and set up, and they're scrambling. Now, the irony is that Zuckerberg is out in public and he's saying that, you know what, guys, this might actually be way better for us than tracking you, because now you won't really want to run your ads to a Shopify store. Now, instead, you're probably going to be using our e-commerce platform, our Instagram shops, and that's probably going to make us more money, which I'm calling cap. That sounds like a load. I just don't believe it.
Yeah, I like to talk about this stuff from a bit more of like a consumer personal aspect, because we hear so many times, and we posted a video about just this privacy issue on our TikTok, and had so many people comment on it, and so much hate. Like, people have a huge disdain for big tech companies, hate them.
Yeah.
But the funny thing about all of it is that I'm like, okay, so you hate how Facebook's stealing, quote unquote, stealing your privacy, your data, all this. Well, why don't, like, are you still on Facebook? Like, yeah, like, I'm still on it, right? Yeah. I'm like, okay, well, if you're really so concerned about Zuck stealing your data, why are you still on the platform?
So the argument is too that even if you delete your Facebook, it's not really gone. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to delete you from their server. Because right when you try and initiate your Facebook again, you reactivate it, what happens?
Everything comes back
to normal. So even if you try to get away, like, you can't escape.
I just like... I get when people complain. I understand the complaint, but part of me is like, okay, when you sign up for Facebook, there's like some terms and agree. I signed up for Facebook probably in like 08, 09, so I don't remember the process, but I'm sure there was some sort of like, all the time we agree to like terms and conditions that we never read.
We never do.
We're just like, yes, agree, next, right? Like a 20-page document. And then here we go. Now we're in a position where, okay, I don't know what I agreed to, and now you're complaining about it. It's like, well, again, you didn't read the fine print. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. So I think another thing too, that the courts, when they have like all the courts with Facebook and Amazon and all these guys, is that they always push these big tech companies to simplify their terms and service, so you can go and just read it and it's in plain English. Actually, Instagrams is pretty good. Like, you can read Instagram's terms of conditions like plain English, and it makes total sense. It's not a lot of jargon.
And another big complaint you see from consumers is that social media platforms, they're tarnishing our free speech, right? And I feel that these social media tech companies have gone so big. It almost feels like the government, like they are so big now.
It's bigger.
Yeah. And it feels, I'm like, people are treating it as if it's like a public service, right? But people forget, these are private companies. They can do whatever the heck they want, right? So you're complaining about this. I'm like, okay, like, what if you created a website of your own, and then someone in the comments was putting, let's say, racist information, right? Now, I understand there's a bit of debate on some things, but something that you didn't agree with and you wanted to take that down. Well, what if that person was like, what about free speech, man? I should be able to comment whatever I want on your personal blog or website. It's like, that's not how it works. Just because Facebook is so big, until they become this, they incorporate with the government, become a public service, it's still a private company.
So are you saying that the controversy comes from these big kind of anti-political groups having Facebook collections of people and then they get taken down? Is that where the controversy is?
That, or even like right now, a big one is when people post information about COVID stuff, and they'll like have some sort of, or the fact checkers, right? Like, Facebook will have that thing that pops up where it says something to the degree of, this information has been verified false, or this is misleading, something.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, Facebook is the one determining this, right?
Right. Yeah. That's a lot of responsibility. But it's like, who else is going to do it? They're on Facebook. but I do feel like a filter is necessary.
Well, some people want the platforms where they can just purely post whatever, anything goes. And part of me almost kind of likes the idea to a degree, where it's like, I'm more about self-education of people. It's like, let's let everything go up, but like also let people make the decision on what's right and wrong.
So I would agree with that if the algorithms weren't designed the way they were, because the algorithm is designed to make you have dopamine, have you be happy, that have you agree with whatever you're seeing. People don't feel good when they have to disagree with things, right? So by feeding you content that you continuously agree with, like, they're not only strengthening your narrative that you already have going on, but that narrative could be like totally left or totally right, political. And that's what we're seeing is like this huge divide in political groups. Like, there's really been no time in history where, well, I won't say no time in history, but no time in recent history where the left and the right are so extremely divided. It's crazy.
I think that what we're going to see, though, is new platforms start to pop up. They're going to push hardcore against what's been happening with the social media companies we see now, where it's going to be like, hey, this is a free-for-all. Put anything you want and it's going to be okay. And that will be their feature. That's going to be the big thing about them.
Yeah.
There was one, and I completely forgot the name of it. I think it was like Parlor or something with a P, but there was a social media platform that was coming up, and it was very much like Twitter, but their whole thing is like, you can say anything. Like, we're not going to take anything down. It's full open, no algorithm. It's just you post and it comes up, right?
Yeah, I like the whole like OG Twitter or OG Facebook, even Instagram, where it was just chronological, because that's why it became so popular, because you just saw things in real time. It allowed you to live more in the moment. But now we're being pushed things that we're just there. It thinks it knows us. So it's showing us these sweet cars and watches and all whatever you're into. And I don't really like that. Like, I want to see what the people I voted to see are showing me. That's really what I think the fundamental element is, and it's completely gone.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to see how these social media tech companies have just slowly become more involved in what you see and what they deem is not allowed on their platform. Because if you think about, like, in 2011, I would say there was a big thing with Middle Eastern terrorist organizations posting videos and such on these platforms. Right. And it was a lot of, obviously, like, violent videos and hateful rhetoric trying to, like, convert people to their groups and so forth. And Twitter and other Facebook and programs and YouTube were taking that stuff down. And I think majority of people were cool with that.
Yeah.
But now, fast forward now, just a couple months ago, the president of the United States got banned. Right. Like, that's like, just in a matter of 10 years, how extreme it has become now.
Yeah, it's a big issue. I think it's too big for us to talk about.
No, that's not true.
At least I'm not gonna put myself out there.
Yeah, I know. I just brought up Trump, and Vic's like, no, we're done.
Yeah. If you bring up Trump, I gotta back off a bit.
Yeah, but it is an interesting just idea of, like, okay, how much do we want to allow these tech companies to be able to monitor what we can say, right?
So it's less about what people are saying. It's more about them kind of manipulating what you think, because once you start liking, once you start engaging, sharing different topics, the algorithms are able to kind of crystallize who you are and then separate you into, like, one of their personas. And they have thousands and thousands of these personas, basically like templates of types of people. And once you get put into one of them, it's going to start feeding you things that you will like and appreciate. And that's kind of when, for me, it gets scary, because if you're on Facebook on, like, above average amount and you are continuously reading, sharing, liking, you're just tailoring this machine to kind of manipulate you. And there's this movie on Netflix. You know the movie I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's like The Social Dilemma.
Social Dilemma, yeah. I mean, obviously, any Netflix documentary to me comes with a large hint of bias, but it was really interesting. If you haven't seen Social Dilemma, I would go check it out. It talks a lot about what I just kind of went through. Yeah.
To give maybe Facebook and some of these companies one, like, pro here when it comes to, like, say, the personas and them targeting stuff towards you. I always think of it like, okay, in terms of ads, like, okay, these are free platforms, right? We don't have to pay for them, but they run ads. I would rather have tailored ads towards me than just randomness, you know? Now, here's the thing. Like, even a couple of days ago, I was on Instagram and I was going through my stories, and an Instagram story ad popped up for this clothing brand I never heard of before, right? And I looked at it, I'm like, I like love this. I love this brand. I love this stuff. I bought stuff from the website like right there. And I'm like, okay, if Instagram hadn't known what I liked and tailored all that, I wouldn't have discovered this brand. So there is some benefit to having a tailored experience.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Though I feel as Facebook should follow suit of YouTube and implement a premium, because I use YouTube Premium to kind of bypass the ads because I'm just impatient and I don't want to sit through ads. But because of that, I have a more enjoyable experience on the platform. And I feel like there's so many Instagram users that if for $5-10 a month would pay for Instagram Premium. I have no doubt in my mind. Like, would you not?
Yeah, I pay for Instagram ads, so I'm like, of course I'd pay for.
Yeah, exactly.